Hey guys, Dr. Snowgrove here, just recording a quick video to talk about writing intros for the first essay in our integrated reading and writing class. All right, so I think I've sent some email correspondence to this effect, but I did want to remind everyone that basically how to put this, when we're putting these essays together, we're putting them together in pieces. So you do an outline first, and then you do an intro, which is what we're talking about today. Then you're going to write some body paragraphs. You get grades and feedback on all of that, and then and only then do you submit a completed final draft. I mention that because inevitably I'll assign the outlines and people will look at the essay instructions and then they'll see the outline, just asking them a few questions like, I guess the man wants a two-page outline. I do not want a two-page outline. You just have to answer for the little daily assignments what it's asking you to do. So for instance, today we're talking about writing an intro for the essay, and that's all you have to submit is the intro. You can submit more. You can always send me more than you have to do, and I'll read it and give you feedback. But I just want to establish expectations that you don't have to immediately turn around and write the whole essay in one go. All right, so for essays, for intros, I always like to use a little prop. If it's a face-to-face class, I'd be drawing on the board. But it's good to imagine this basically as an upside down triangle. All right, and the reason for the upside down triangle effect is basically you're starting at the tippy top, right? You're starting with the title, and then you work your way. We're going to talk about all of this in more detail here in a minute, but you kind of work your way down where it's like, all right, we've done the title, we've got a good hook, we're providing background info, and then, and only then, do we get to the thesis, which, it sounds pretty simple, but you might be surprised by the number of people that just kind of like jump right in, with the thesis. It'll be like their first sentence. Like, no, we're ease into it a little bit. So speaking of easing into things, it's like Mr. Magoo working the technology over here. I was trying to find the right screen to share with you. I believe this is it. I always like to show this to students. I show this to my 1101 students as well, because it's literally a textbook, essay introduction, by which I mean it's been in our textbook before. So it starts out, does texting affect writing? That's the title. Now I'll go ahead and tell you, this is one of the few things I don't like about this example essay. And the reason for it is it tells you, yes, exactly what this essay is going to be about, right? But here's the problem. If you're not automatically, or already interested in texting or writing, it's the kind of title that doesn't really, do anything for you. And so one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do in your own writing is to work on titles where it's okay if you want to play up a mysterious angle. God help me, it's a lot like coming up with clickbait titles, for online articles. People could always just have a basic description like so-and-so won't be returning for season 2. But they always, instead, these online articles will have titles like, you won't believe which of your favorite blah, blah, blah stars won't be returning. So what are they doing there? They're being deliberately vague in order to make someone like you say, wait, who are we talking about? My favorite star? Look, let me click on this. Let me give a check. So you guys can lean into this a little bit if you want to have funny titles, dramatic titles, scary titles, et cetera, et cetera. However you want to approach it, we want it to be the kind of title that gets someone's attention. I mentioned clickbait. I always tell people these days, like, imagine the probably hundreds of things that you scroll by each day that you could click on, but you only click on a handful of them. Why do you click on these things? Usually they sound interesting. And so that's one of those surprising areas of skill transfer, where something that sounds interesting maybe to you for this article, like, well, how could you apply that to your own essay? What kind of interesting title could you take? So for instance, our ENC 17 students are writing about whether the flashback budget is still viable, in the modern age or not. So you could have a title if you wanted to have something a little more mysterious, like, could tips from the past help save our future? If you want to do that, you don't have to. I don't actually count points off for bad titles, but I just wanted to mention that because I tell students, I always try to grade your stuff. I try to get in a mindset like, clear the mind. I'm ready to just evaluate this essay. And I'll see so many essays where the first title is like, or the title is something like essay 1, or, money essay, budget essay. Yeah, it's like, it's tough to get very excited grading that. I had one student one time that didn't realize that I could see her file names. So everything she submitted had these lovely titles like dumbass homework assignment number 1, dumbass homework assignment number 2. I think about her quite a bit. And so you want to have a title that is interesting, something that gets our attention, something that a person would do a double take on, or they click on if it came across their phone. All right. So I'll turn off our little sample thing here in a minute. But if you imagine, again, our upside down triangle, the title is up here. And we're about to get into the hook, which is the first line or first few lines where you try to really cement the reader's attention. And I want to let you know that the title and the hook, where they're placed, it's a large part of why we do the upside down triangle metaphor. And the reason for that is, you see how the essay is slowly taking shape. We get to the thesis at the bottom. We're going to get to that. And that is the most specific point. That is like laser focused on telling you exactly what my argument is. But the whole intro is leading up to that. So if that is the tightest and most specific point, what is it up here? Well, the essay hasn't taken shape yet. That's why it's basically the only section in your essay where you can get away with being a little bit mysterious. Once you get to your body paragraphs, you have to have all these super specific arguments, tie them back to your thesis. We'll get to it. But here, we just have to introduce the thesis. And, as you guys know, it's like in order to get the reader to read the thesis, we must first get them interested enough to keep reading in the first place. And so that starts with the title. We've been talking about that, a title that makes you kind of do a double take or makes you click on it like, I got to see what this is about. Now, here's the thing. I keep making these extended internet comparisons because I live online, I guess. And so we've all had that moment where you click on something because it sounds cool, and then you immediately find out, wow, this sucks. And you just hitting that back button so aggressively. Websites keep track of that, by the way. That's called the bounce rate. What is the average amount of time that somebody is, on the site before they hit the back button? All right, so in terms of your writing, what does that mean for you? Well, you might have a badass title. I hope you do, or I hope you come up with one at least. But now you need to have a hook, which, as I said, that's the first line or first few lines that is meant to kind of get the reader's attention, or I should say cement the reader's attention. I guess the movie's getting a little older every day, much like me, but this process, the relationship between the title and the hook, I always make a comparison to the movie Django Unchained. And Leonardo DiCaprio, several memes have been made of his weird racist character in that movie. But there's this great bit where he's talking. He says, "You had my curiosity, now you have my attention." And so the title is there to make the reader curious. Like I said, oh, wait, what? I guess I'll click. I guess I'll read. I guess I'll see what this is. But the hook is there, like, now you got my attention. So check out, now we're finally getting the article that I'm screen sharing with you more explicitly. Check out the way that she starts this article off, because she could have just been like, many people are wondering if texting affects writing. But instead, it's taking over our lives. We can do it almost anywhere. Walking to class, waiting in line at the grocery store, or hanging out at home. It's quick, easy, and convenient. It's become a concern of doctors, parents, and teachers alike. What is it? It's texting. So she did this very much on purpose. This is what I was talking about, that here at the tippy top of your upside down triangle, you have a lot of room to be mysterious. So instead of jumping right into what it is, she deliberately found a creative way of describing it. Like, they don't actually do movie trailers this way anymore, but it sounds like the old movie trailer guy, right? It's taking over our lives. We can do it almost anywhere. And all of this, notice what she's doing. All of this is designed to make you say, wait, what are we talking about? It's taking over our lives. What's taking over our lives? We can do it almost anywhere. What are you talking about? It's become a concern of doctors and parents and teachers. What are we talking about? And then at the end, she says, it's texting. So it's, your mileage may vary on how successful this was, but this is basically her way of, like, hopefully the title got your attention. I didn't love her title. I already admitted it, but hopefully the title gets the reader's attention, and then you have a hook, something that, like this, makes it all right. You got me. I always think about the Rick and Morty meme. You son of a bitch, I'm in. It's a bit like that, where it's like, all right, if you have an interesting title and you have an interesting hook, somebody's like, all right, you got me. I'm going to read the whole thing now. How do you do a hook, though? It's kind of up to you. It's always up to you. So this student did like a whole small paragraph to make it sound mysterious and make it well, what are you talking about? There's other ways to, you can have a hook that is as short as one sentence. I often tell students in my professional writing life, my favorite hook, my favorite style of hook, I should say, is one where I will have a rhetorical question involving the second person. So it gives me a chance to say you to the reader. So for instance, if I'm writing an article about insurance and, like maybe you're paying too much, I might start it out like, what if you're paying hundreds of extra dollars per year and you didn't even know it? So there's a couple things that are going on there. I'm asking a question. Human beings are hardwired to want answers to questions. So if you ask a question as your hook, it makes people want to keep reading to get the answer. It's also what's called a rhetorical question, which is a fancy way of saying, I'm really only asking the question to get you to think a certain way, right? So when I'm writing for clients and I have what if you were losing hundreds of dollars a month and you didn't even know it? Or something like that. I'm positioning myself as an expert that's about to give them secret knowledge that makes them want to keep going. And of course, I throw in the word you. So I always joke about this. I want my reader to feel like they have some skin in the game. I'm not talking about this in general. I'm talking about you in particular. Could be saving, you could be losing money, but I've got a way for you to save money. So the rules of hooks are really the same-ish as the rules of titles. Again, you can come up with funny hooks, sad hooks, scary hooks, dramatic hooks, and so on and so forth. Any and all of that kind of thing is perfectly fair game. I know this is easier said than done. I always feel like a jackass saying this, but the real thing with the title and the hook, just anything but boring. I've gotten so many titles and it's just like essay one. I've gotten so many hooks that were basically non-existent. Someone just immediately jumps into the background info. I'm like, okay, let's win the reader over a little bit. Try to get their interest a little bit. This is the teaspoon of sugar that helps the medicine go down. And now we're at the medicine. All right, so in our upside down triangle thing, I always draw two different levels of background information. And this is exactly what you think it is. Background information. What does my reader need to know in order to understand the rest of this? So it's like I got to front load them with, and it's easier said than done also, but like you as the writer need to kind of back up like, hey, I've been writing on this for however long. I know a lot more about this than the average person. But what does the average person maybe not know about that they need to know about to understand my essay? That's what you would fill in here. Now, this person arguably did a little bit of overkill because this whole section right here is their first background section. And it's like, let me explain what a text message is. And I got to tell you guys, even in 2010, most people knew what a text message was. But she, as the writer, made a command decision like, I got a whole long ass essay about texting affecting writing. So let me make sure everybody knows what texting is. So that's the general level. So the reason that I have two levels of background info on the upside down triangle is we move always from the general to the more specific. So here's the general. Let me tell you what unfrozen caveman, what a text message is. But then she fills us in on more relevant, more specific info. In order to more quickly type what they were trying to say, many people use abbreviations instead of words. The language created by these abbreviations is called text speak. So that's one level of the more specific background info. Like, hey, yeah, you know what a text message is. Maybe. You do now if you didn't. But I'm also going to tell you about text speak and these abbreviations, which is really, the meat and potatoes of the essay. So she gives us that more specific info. And then, and this very much does apply to your essay one, anytime you have something where there could be at least two perspectives on it, two stances on it, then you can basically, how to put this, you can set that up for the reader to show what the argument is. So she's like, and that can be done in one sentence. She does it in one sentence. Some people believe that using these abbreviations is hindering the writing abilities of students. Others argue texting is actually having a positive effect on writing. So this is a classic. Some people believe X, other people believe Y, and she lays it out. So that's part of the extended background information. And Now we're continuing, to move down our upside down triangle here. And now we are at the tippy top, the bitty bottom, maybe I should say. That's somebody's screen name, right? Where it's like the thesis, the most specific point of the entire essay. So that's where you give us what you're going to be arguing. In her case, she goes from some people believe this, other people believe that. She's like, in fact, it seems likely that texting has no significant effect on student writing. So that's her thesis. For you guys, it's going to lead into whatever. So if you're in if you're in ENC 17, I'm going to need you to say like, yes, these tips are still useful, or no, these tips are not still useful. If you are in ENC 27, I need you to specify whether you think that poor budgeting and spending choices are the main causes of poverty or not. All right, so let me get out of the screen share. Oh, there's my big head. Looking much bigger now on my screen, at least. Probably looking bigger on yours, too. So again, just imagine the upside down triangle as you guys are writing your essays. Some sort of interesting title, right? Something that makes the reader curious. Some sort of one sentence, or it could be a short paragraph, hook in order to really get the reader's attention. Like, all right, I'm really paying attention now. Background info. So if you are in ENC 17, you need to introduce the author and the article, right? Otherwise you can't. I know that sounds obvious, but I get so many things where it's like, the article says that, and I'm like, what article? You're writing this for a general audience, so you have to introduce the author and article before you can talk about them, right? If you're in ENC 27, we need you to introduce the debate about, hey, many people debate what the main causes of poverty are. So then you move into the more specific background info. If you're in ENC 17, some people believe the tips may still be useful, others think they're not. If you're in ENC 27, some people think that poor budgeting and spending choices are the main causes of poverty, others think they're not. And then here at the end, we get to the thesis, which is where you give us your opinion. Like, yes, the tips are still useful, or no, the tips are not still useful if you're in ENC 17. Or, yes, these are the main causes of poverty, or no, they're not the main causes of poverty if you are in ENC 27. Whew, that is about it. You guys hopefully know the drill by now. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to email me. Feel free to text me at 863-835-2399. Y'all have a good one. Bye.